just want you to know I practiced this word about 20 times to make sure that I did not mispronounce it.
I have a question. Has anyone ever said with all due respect and then not followed up with a zinger?
His side of the bed. If I come in and I'm on the other side, he will move it. Yeah, that's it.
Which side do you like? With all due respect, you make a good point.
Cheery Oreos! Toasted Oreos!
Mute. He's muted.
I love what he's saying. He doesn't need sounds.
You're so small, squishing your head, Joseph.
You can.
Do it with me, Joe.
With all due respect, you really do look handsome, Bruce. Cheery Oreos! Toasted Oreos!
Look at you. You are insane.
How did I do that?
How did I do that?
You just made the intro reel. Yes, you did.
You're insane.
Well, this is the place where insanity comes home, where fellow insane asylum inmates get to be what is insane anyway? Sometimes it seems that the world has gone mad, and sometimes it's just time for something completely different. So hope you enjoyed the new intro to the show, Tom Morris. Here to learn how to yodel, and I'm just going to assume that what you meant to type was H-E-R-E. But, who am I? Maybe philosophers can't spell. I don't know. My mom is here. Welcome, Mom. Enjoy the show. It's going to be fun. It's going to be different because Robin Keller is here, as in Khaleesi. He's going to be your Khaleesi today. Robin Keller is here. Not caller, but Keller. And we're just going to talk about whatever the hell he wants to talk about. I am good with that. It is February 1st. We may as well start the new month off on the right foot. Not that foot. See, I'm getting so much better at this. But the right foot. I think that's the left foot, actually. I'm definitely, trying to keep up a smile, a little bit of hope, positivity, and optimism. But it's hard because, I put on some weight. 2 pounds. I don't really understand what's going on because I was on my bike on the Peloton 27 out of 31 days in January, and the other 4 I spent meditating. Clearly, I need to meditate a little bit harder and clearly cycle a little bit further, even on a stationary bike. Maybe, and I've said this before, let's just hope that muscle weighs more than Chubba Wubba. So we'll leave it at that. Today is National Reset Your Password Day. And look, to my dear friends out there, and you know who you are, my mom most likely, if your password is password or 1234567 or QWERTY or my password, you may want to think about changing it, and you will see why on the show shortly. Let's see who else is here. Thank you, Bob. Muscle does weigh more than fat. Bob, congratulations to you, because I hear a rumor that you did 2 push-ups the other day. That has not been independently verified, but I hear that there has been 2 push-ups cited in the grand and great state of Vermont. Glenn says, very impressive. Impressive that I put on weight or something else. Who knows? But I appreciate the compliment. Well, let's move on, because today and this week, we've got another set of unbelievable guests. Robin Keller, John Jansch. Jansch, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly, just like I'm pronouncing Keller correctly with a bit of help from my friends. What a great guy he is, as is Justin. Tracy and I will be meeting for the first time on Thursday, meeting live on the streaming air, and then another terrific community show. But as I said, it's just been amazing for me. It is what has helped me, even from a mental health standpoint, just the ability to make new friends, rekindle and nurture old friendships. And on Friday, Bob Heyman, Tom Morris, Jeff Gotthelf, Lisa Cohn, and Faith James in the house. Quick reminder that there are 2 Clubhouse panels or Clubhouse rooms that I will be moderating or co-moderating. Today at 4 p.m. we'll be discussing brands on Clubhouse, soulmates or unholy union. And then tomorrow, a continuation of what I've started doing with Angus Nelson, which is really talking about pivot your company, pivot your personal brand, pivot your life. And we're joined by Brian Kramer and Troy Sandage as well. So that's tomorrow at 1:30 Eastern. And if you are trying to get the hang of Clubhouse and you're hearing everything about it and you're in the Clubhouse, come swing by our room and we would love to have you there. But today we are, as I said, enough about me. Let's focus on Robin Keller, the founder of the Overmore Group. Love that photo of his, and we'll talk about that too. Very briefly, let's just say happy birthday to everyone that celebrated birthdays over the weekend. Mussy Cantor, M.T. Carney, Colin Browning, and today Warren Shevitz, or as I call him, Dozy Shevitz, in South Africa. Karon Lee Resnick is also celebrating a birthday. And of course, well, Richard Binhammer and Cindy Gallup, previous guest on the show. You know that you always get a shout out as a previous guest on the show. Over on LinkedIn, Antolo Babu, Brandon Whalen. On Sunday, Walia Wright, Dean Aragon, who was also on the show. He is the Chief Brand Officer of Shell. Mario Sunda, Jeff Gotthelf will be on the show on Friday. I must remember to wish him happy birthday. And then finally today, there is Jeff Ferguson, David Schulman, Clinton Taylor, and Mohammed Iqbal. Happy birthday to all of you. Well, today's seated soliloquy, I felt like I really did need to talk about and be able to address what happened last week. And I called the soliloquy, Who's Robbing Whom? Hedge funds, Robinhood, Wall Street bets. The battle between David and Goliath last week was immense and intense. For those of you living under a rock, here's the best attempt that I can give you of a recap. A bunch of people on Reddit pulled a fast one with a bunch of companies that either made the cover of my book, Built to Suck, are on the waiting list, or the fast track to join the likes of Kodak, Toys R Us, Blockbuster, and BlackBerry. Actually, BlackBerry was one of them, along with AMC and in pole position GameStop. Back in the good old .com days, I remember small-time day trading, and please pay attention to the air quotes, or the equivalent of buying and selling stocks multiple times throughout the day. That's what I was up to then. Today, there's an app for that, Robinhood, amongst others. With such low barriers to entry, combined with the rise of social media and the powerful combined forces of wisdom of crowds meets flash mobs, there was a tipping point of sorts when a group on Reddit called Wall Street Bets stuck it to the big hedge funds and sent the likes of GameStop et al. Set their stock prices literally soaring into the stratosphere. Or as Vulture's Rachel Handler's boyfriend explained it in 20 words, finance bros bet it would drop, Reddit stock traders juiced it so it would rise, which fucked the finance bros. See, I had to struggle to get that one out. To be clear, this wasn't necessarily random stocks. Keith Gill on his YouTube channel, Roaring Kitty, recorded GameStop in a video in August of 2020. AMC might have been struggling before the pandemic and put on Death Watch in 2020 because of the pandemic, but it isn't too much of a stretch to expect or anticipate some kind of rebound or return to a new normal. But of course, the hedge funds were not betting on that. They were shorting those stocks. The result? The hedge funds lost billions. And what happened then was interesting. Trading app Robinhood intervened by blocking trades on their platform the next day, which itself raised a whole host of new questions about censorship and intervention. I almost found myself agreeing with Tucker Carlson on Fox News for the first time. I said almost. Robinhood's founder explained it differently to Elon Musk on Clubhouse last night, that it was just complying with a National Securities Clearing Corporation request. Well, I wouldn't know anything about that. Also, Robinhood subsequently raised $1 billion themselves to cope with all the activity. I guess you'll have to determine where the premeditation, malice, and blame lies. Is it with the 800-pound gorillas of Wall Street, Robin Hood, or perhaps I should call them the Sheriff of Nottingham, or the, quote, huge group of anonymous people who all somehow coordinated enough financial activity to create a noticeable blip on the global financial world, end quote. And while you're thinking about it, think about this. Last week, The Big Short and Wolf of Wall Street were number 3 and number 4 on the Apple TV charts, behind Tenet and Greenland. Talk about art imitating life, imitating art. I think you can really go in a whole bunch of directions. But the question is where you actually think and where your heart and maybe where your head, the soul and the heart are two different organs with two different sets of motivations, where ultimately you would lie. Well, I guess I'll ask Robin Keller what he thinks, if he has an opinion, and he may not. But let's give you a little bit of background about Robin. Robin Keller is a Geordie from Newcastle upon Tyne in the north of England, the place they took coals from rather than to. He's 52, married to a woman that I know from Cape Town, and I didn't until I met him, and has 2 lovely children. Professionally, he's been running his own business since being unceremoniously fired in 2001, and he keeps himself out of trouble as the creative driving force behind the world-famous and incredible Lola Grove software. A privacy advocate and former banner jockey, Robin cut his teeth in the digital industry selling domain names in '95 before heading up European sales at proto-social network FortuneCity. I do remember them, which means I'm old enough to remember when Lego came without instructions. I don't know if I remember that, but I don't need to remember. All I need to do is to have Robin remember. Let's bring him on the show. Robin Keller, welcome to CoronaTV.
And a very, very good afternoon. Very good evening to you. Thanks for having me.
Well, I don't know if you know this about where we are about the Northeast, but we are in a huge snowstorm at the moment. And I'm looking at you. You look warm. You look cozy there in England, and outside to that side and that side, I just see the snow is falling at probably 2 inches an hour, blizzard-like conditions. So hopefully the gods will smile on us, not stomp us with the Monty Python foot, and we will stay connected. But how are you? How are things right now? I hear that things are, not mincing words, but things are pretty tough right now where you are.
In London, yeah, certainly. January was a tough month. It felt like the longest month in history. I don't know if you felt the same. I must say, I don't know exactly where you are. I assumed you were in New York.
I'm outside of New York in Connecticut, so close enough.
Very nice, very nice. Well, we've seen snow. We've seen snow, just a one snowfall. Actually, I think the first time for 2 years we had snow, so nothing like you've got. But it's grey. It's grey, and I think the hard part for Britain in winter is the skies are low. The ceilings are low. It's a grey sky, and it's not too far above your head, so it's a tough time.
And what about the lockdown at the moment? Because I think the perspective of someone living in it and going through it is important. You've had various national lockdowns, and I think this is the most onerous one of them all. Here in the US, it's been a bit of a shit show, to be quite blunt, in terms of different states with different governors of different parties doing different things. Not coincidentally, and now for something, got it wrong, completely different. That is very Monty Python-esque, by the way. But how has it been coping? I mean, do you feel as a citizen, as a resident, in our government we trust, and in the powers that be, the ruling authorities, and we do what we're told because it's for the greater good? Or is there, or do you feel, resentment and ill will towards those making the rules?
Oh, good question. For me, I can answer personally, Joseph. I think being the Prime Minister of our country's a tough job. I run a little business, and running a small business is a tough job sometimes. So being Prime Minister, I think, is in some ways thankless. I know they asked for the job, but it's one of the few gigs I know of that comes with a permanent full-time leader of the opposition, a suave, smooth-talking barrister whose fully paid 24/7 job is to disagree with everything that you ever say or do. So I think it's a tough time for the government, for sure. I don't think anybody would want to be in power and have to make the decisions they have to make. As a citizen, I take it on the chin. I would hate to be responsible for being a link in the chain. So if I or anybody in my family had asymptomatic coronavirus and we ignored the warnings, I would be very uncomfortable with being responsible for those ramifications. And as a business manager, I can say I think it's been hard for my team, but they've responded admirably, and I think we all miss each other, and we miss the interaction of working together in an open plan office in a good communal space. So yeah, lots of variables there.
Yeah, I mean, I think we'll certainly take, one of the things that there's one of these B2B best practices, which is people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And, part of the joy of doing these shows is that I've gotten to know people, new people like you, new friends, but also really going deeper with old friends. And I think maybe we're going to see that back in the workplace when we come back to it.
I hope so. And you think psychologically, or is it Zelig, the movie with Woody Allen, where he changes character all the time based upon the situation he finds himself in? And I think if you one of the benefits of lockdown has been with the web conferences, we've seen family in the background, we've seen cats and dogs and pets and children, and we've managed to break free, I hope, of some of the faces that we put on, the characters that we have to put on in social circumstances, and we're being more natural with each other. So I hope so. And
I like that idea.
How we carry it out.
I like that idea, by the way, that this idea that we're actually putting on a character when we're in the office.
What we do.
It's
script. It's God help us if we break out of it, right?
Yeah, and God help us if the character that we put on is the one that we put on at home, and the real us is the person at work. But that's another show. You're a data guy and a privacy guy, and I thought it was quite apropos that it's kind of National Reset Your Password Day. I mentioned I mentioned or alluded to something that I would show, and this is it. This is crazy. I mean, I looked at this, and that it basically says the time it would take a hacker to brute force your password. And this is just like unbelievable. Like, I mean, you can start off, the way I interpreted it was, you could go with 10 numbers and they would get that instantly, or you could go with five characters that are a mixture of numbers, upper and lowercase letters and symbols, and they would get that instantly. And then if you go somewhere down the list, I mean, I try and find 10 lowercase letters, 58 minutes, or it freaked me out. Like, you cannot believe when I realized how easy it is for them to, just get into. I mean, I think at a very minimum, if you are watching this and your password lives in the purple zone, or at least I would say most of the red zone, it's time to think about changing your password now.
I don't think you're wrong. I think you're right. You're right. So yes, we work in data, and I have a story I think that's relevant to this. What a fantastic chart. I hope everybody in the company and everybody we work with is watching. I assure you, Joseph, I am well into the green zone now. But what we actually did as a business is we hired a hacker. So we had this lovely fella, Alex, who we let into our building, and he was a professional hacker, and we had him inside our offices, and his job was to teach us what we were doing wrong. And I have to confess that my PC was one of the PCs that he quite easily got into and compromised. Now, I'd like to think I gave him some help. You know, firstly, I let him in the building. Secondly, you know, he became a personal friend, so I shared some words with him and numbers with him that I might otherwise not have done. But still, you're absolutely right. If you just go with a word or a set of numbers, it's minutes. It's not long. It's purple zone. So, 16 digits minimum. Would that be a good call? 16 digits minimum, combination of letters and numbers. Special character.
How would I remember that?
Well, that is the challenge. But I'm a man of your means.
There's an app. There's an app for that, I'm sure.
I think there's an app for that, and be careful you don't lose the password to that.
Exactly. Well, the password for that app that controls all my 17-digit alphanumeric symbolic passwords is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But I will change that as soon as we're finished with the show. Robin, something else that to me was quite funny is I was, so you definitely. I know that you're the real deal because I couldn't find many photos of you on the web. And I was looking to find photos of you to master, manipulate. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, but I figured the guy in the middle was you. And
I saw that, and I thought that was very funny. And actually, I didn't mind at all. That's Boris, and I will give him a shout out. That's Boris Pfeiffer.
He's not the hacker, is he?
He's not. He's formerly of Tickle.com, which was bought by Monster. I don't know if you remember Tickle.
Yeah, I do remember
Monster, and he now runs a business called Riddle. So give him a shout out. A business called Riddle, top quiz site, top quiz makers. They are at Riddle, and lovely fella Boris. It's pretty much all his fault what I do for a living now. So it was amusing that you accidentally picked his picture out. But obviously the guys on the left and the right are me.
Okay. Let me correct that. There we go. But that's also you, isn't it?
And that's also me from the same chat with Boris. Yes. So you got the wrong guy.
That's what I realized. So that shows you, first of all, there is power in a thumbnail. And I remember scrutinizing it all and going, I think it's him. Is it possibly him? But I did correct it this morning. I just thought it was, and obviously, look, someone like me, you go and you Google me, and you'll see 1,000 photos. Obviously, it speaks to the nature of who I am in my business. Is it deliberate on your part to make sure that your public profile or your persona is controlled or gated, given what you do for a living?
Interesting question. I don't think it's entirely deliberate. No. Firstly, about the beard. So the beard was part of lockdown 1. I grew the beard for over 16 weeks. By week 16, I could get 16 pencils to stay in it. And that was my entertaining experience of lockdown and beard. I thought I wouldn't shave until coronavirus was all over. That could have been a disaster, couldn't it? In terms of
what's happening here right now, I mean, I'm also
what you're doing.
I'm growing it again, and it's looking scruffy. No one's happy about it in this household, but
16 pencils. You got to beat 16. Go to 17 pencils, and then you can shave.
How about a Mont Blanc pen?
Start with one.
I might stab myself. Normally with people. By the way, Glenn says he creates long. I create long verses which I can remember, such as 3 great people went out sailing. That's just an example. How long would it take the hackers to crack that one?
I think a while. I think he's up into the purple. I think he's got, it's long. There's a number. There's letters. Probably needs a few more numbers in there. Come on, Glenn. Pick up with the numbers.
Yeah, I mean,
then you've got to be careful with the numbers.
Change the O's to zeros, right? Change the L's to ones.
You're giving it all away. You're giving it all away now. That's what they got. They're writing it down on you now to crack.
No, but Glenn is like, serves you right because it was actually 2 great people that went out sailing, so not 3. So,
gotcha. So that's going to take them an extra 35 years. He's throwing them a curveball.
Now, Robin, I got to tell you, like normally, as I said, with people, I talk about these fun facts that come up. you supplied some of these fun facts, but more importantly, I think your life is a glorious fun fact. Hence, and now for something completely different. We've gone through some of these things, but let's go through a few more. Let's talk about the fact that you are a Geordie. And who is the most famous Geordie? For me, it's got to be Paul Gascoigne, Gazza, as a Spurs fan.
He's up there. But it depends which way you go in terms of sport. In terms of football, Gazza. Music, though, you've got Sting, you've got Brian Ferry from Roxy Music. Not a bad shout. Dire Straits, Mark Knopfler.
Yeah, I love that. So a lot of what makes a Geordie a Geordie? What are the characteristics culturally that?
Well, it depends who you ask. I'm glad you've asked me. I think I'll give you a good, clean answer. So a Geordie is born north of the River Tyne, historically born north of the River Tyne, and the name comes from the period, I believe, when the English were fighting the Scots, and you were either for Mary or for George. And as we're so close to the border, the locals would be asked if they were for Mary, Queen of Scots, that is, or for George. And I'm a Georgie, and a Georgie became a Geordie. And it's a great place to be from, and I'm proud to be a Geordie. I think it's a nice accent to have, if we're going to have an accent. Geordie's not bad.
Well, you're a Geordie, and growing up, there were a few other things that were interesting about you. One is you the former table champion of Newcastle upon Tyne.
I was Whiff Waff champion, former table tennis champion of Newcastle, long time ago. But yes, a great game, table tennis. I don't know. You mentioned you meditate. Is that right?
Well, I mean,
yoga.
I attempt to meditate. I had Lodro Rinsler on the show, and he did a 10-minute, I think, meditation with me. And I'm trying it now. I kind of enjoy it, although I know that I haven't quite crossed over to the meditation zone, whatever that is. Because every time they say, talk about your mind wandering, I'm like, my mind is wondering what that means. My mind is still working.
So here's something about table tennis, and I'll big it up. I'll sell table tennis to you as a wandering mind. You will find it very difficult to play table tennis and for your mind to wander, because that little white ball moves pretty quickly, and it does make you focus in on it. And somehow I found that quite therapeutic. It's one of those escapist games. You can't play table tennis whilst thinking about math. It just won't work. You can't think about that work problem or the next animation you're going to pull up on me or something whilst playing table tennis. It'll occupy your mind fully. So if meditation's not for you, try ping pong.
I think you were smiling because you saw comments coming in from Neil Shaler, right?
Jimmy Nail, very famous Geordie. I don't know if you know Jimmy Nail. There's Anton Deck. Yeah, Neil's a colleague and a friend from London. He's a Spurs fan, so he's pointing out the famous people that I haven't pointed out. Lord Collingwood, of course, right-hand man to Admiral Lord Nelson.
Yeah, of course. I have them both on my list of potential guests to come on the show. So, it's Lord Week, basically. So all the lords are invited. Now, Jimmy Nail, I'm going to this is just a flyer, but I'm normally, what was his most favorite? What song? I want to say Love Don't Come Around Here No More, but am I completely wrong?
Don't live here anymore. You've abandoned me. Yeah, I think you're right. I'd have to look it up, and I'm sure one other.
No, many.
Sure, one other. But Jimmy Nail, again, just fabulous actor. He was a brickie, and he got a job as an actor on TV, and he acted himself in Auf Wiedersehen Pet, about a bunch of Geordie brickies going to work on a building site in Germany. And fabulous. Some brilliant actors in that show.
So we're finding out a lot about you. Like, for example, one of the things we're finding out in the background is a furniture
see what
store,
you're doing there. Yeah.
A furniture store belonging to the Kellers.
It is, and as you can see, a very contemporary photo. So that's one of the shops that we've just had to mothball lately, Joseph. But no, I better put that right. It's part of the broader family, so I'm not a direct descendant of the owners of this store, but I suppose their great grandfather, a director, descendant of him, and the family came in from Russia, and they made furniture, and then they opened stores around the northeast in Newcastle and became a large furniture.
And you've been inspired because you have this is the Valet.
I have.
You made this or you bought this?
Oh, I wish I'd made it. No, I bought one of these. This is, I think,
a famous chair, right?
A famous chair, the Valet chair, by a designer called Wagner, and beautifully constructed, if you don't mind me saying. It's a man's chair, obviously. You can see that you hang a suit on it. The seat lifts up to provide a lovely hang for your trousers overnight, and then the triangle space inside underneath, you can put your watch and your key rings and your wallet and your belt. You can hang your jacket across the back. But I don't know if you noticed, Josie, did you see the curvature of the back?
Yeah.
Absolutely stunning. Absolutely fits with the curvature of your spine. The designer went and spoke to doctors and chiropractors and just carved this amazing piece of furniture.
So an interesting thing going on, right? Which is form meets function.
Yeah.
Something that is so useful can also be beautiful, or something that is so beautiful can also be useful, and how that one chair brings these two worlds together in a pretty sublime way.
I think sublime. I think you're right. And a little bit of architecture, really, when you think about making something that's also extremely, extremely livable with and easy on the eye. Just, yeah, special. So I bought one. I don't know if you can see it. It's my Monty Python moment. It's over there.
Yeah, we see it. You got it. You Jimmy nailed it, my friend.
Thank you very much.
I think there's an interesting tangent that comes out of that, which is, as I was saying, form and function, the ability to actually deliver both at the same time. I feel like often we are asked to choose one, or inherently we do choose one. Whether you're a data guy, for example, so you might be bucketed or bucket yourself, or someone might bucket you into the data analytics left brain category. I'm a creative guy, so I might be able to always say, no, I've got to be right brain all the time. I can never be left. I can never be known for it or mistaken to be that. But what we see with the Valet chair is the ability to say, why don't, and the other example, I guess, is, of course, this example, form and function, that you can do and maybe should do both at the same time.
Well, I think the truly remarkable products are both, aren't they? The truly remarkable products that stand the test of time. Even my kid's 8, my son is 8, and he was doing a piece of homework on Victorian inventions, the typewriter. What a remarkable thing, I think, when you look at a typewriter, an old typewriter, and how they were made. There's something beautiful about them, form and function. You're not wrong there, Joseph. But in this chat, and I'm sorry it's taken this long to ask, I am hoping that a few of my friends and family and my contacts and circle are watching this, not because of me, but because of you, because I wanted them to know a little bit about you, and I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. Are we allowed to turn the tables at all on CoronaTV?
You just did?
Did I? So may I ask you some questions?
Yes, I'm going to put myself into the interview chair now.
Oh gosh, excellent. That's good. So Joseph, for those of the viewers who don't know you very well, you've started this thing called CoronaTV, which is, I think, remarkable. What got you going? Why did you decide to start CoronaTV?
So I didn't actually start CoronaTV, or I didn't know I was starting CoronaTV. I came home from South Africa, visiting my mom, found out that my wife had COVID while I was there, flew back and probably passed my wife on the I-95, our highway, while she was getting tested. Got home, went into quarantine for at least 14 days at that point. Turns out it was about a year. And just looked one by one, all my consulting or speaking gigs or conferences I was attending being cancelled, being put on hold. And I don't remember a sense of anything negative. I wish I'd written down, or I wish I could remember the spark. But I went to Facebook and I was like, let me just do a Facebook Live and just say and capture my thoughts. I think I felt a need to want to capture my thoughts. And then there was a lot of engagement, and I did it again, and then I did it again, and then I decided to use Zoom because there's certain functionality that comes with Zoom. And then I found the software that I'm using right now called StreamYard. And then I was talking to my sister who was in London, who, by the way, she had to pivot a whole business.
She lives around the corner.
Being so the Psy Club. And I said to her, why don't you just come on my show and I'll interview you and talk up the entrepreneurial spirit. She did, and she was guest number one, and you are guest number 197. But I'll tell you a few interesting things. First of all, my sister actually had COVID.
That's not going into my password. Just, you've ruined it now. I'm going to take that out of my password. But
which one?
It's 197. Got to take 197 out now.
In fact,
somebody's written it down.
In fact, your password is #197. Robin Caller, founder of the Overmore Group. And I'll just she had COVID. She was on the show, but what began in this, let me figure out how to cope or find something to bide my time, has become, I think, a life-changing commitment. And I'm all in on CoronaTV. I mean, this is what I was meant to do.
And these are some of the questions I wanted to ask you. One of my favorite characters on YouTube is a Dutch guy called Pitmaster X. He I think like you, he started doing barbecue videos, and now he's sponsored, and he's doing up his home by the looks of things week by week as the royalties roll in. But the question to you, do you think you'd go back to the blend of work you used to do before this? And B, as you're doing it, I've been watching you not 196 times, but regularly. You're using different apps. Were you technical beforehand, or have you had to learn on the job to produce, edit, host, and soliloquy a show? And you do it daily. Is that right? A lot of questions there, but
I do it daily. Well, first of all, Glenn has updated his password now to 197 great people went out to sailing. So
that's good.
He's learning and he's evolving, and that is ultimately the only thing we can ask of people. I don't think that I will go back to what I was doing before. I don't think that I want to be a consultant anymore. I mean, at least not in an ongoing, larger project sort of way. I think I can be useful and helpful to people and to companies through shorter, more powerful bursts of inspiration or intellect or advice. So that's the first thing. I intend to do this full time, and also teach full time, and also speak and write full time. In other words, full time equals my life, and I want to do what I love, and I want to do what inspires me and others. And to the technical part of it is, I've been a huge booster of StreamYard because it's so easy. But I'm just open to possibilities. I'm open to experimentation. I'm okay with messing up, and I keep on. Last week I streamed the show on Clubhouse to see what that was like.
That was Mickey Mouse's Clubhouse you told me about. Is that right?
Exactly. You've been. By the way, Chris Ashton Green says I miss the beard. So can't please everyone all the time, my friend.
I miss you, Chris. So. Yes, he's a nice fella as well, who I bumped into with the beard on the heath walking the dog during lockdown.
Robin, I guess I would say is, I think what you have to do in life is you have to figure out what the bare minimum is that you can be reasonably confident and competent, that you can excel time and time again on a consistent basis. Every time you add levels of complexity, every single additional piece of functionality that you add on top exponentially creates more opportunities for things to go wrong. And ultimately, this is, to me, what people would call minimum viable product, right? Or minimum viable prototype is what does that threshold look like, that minimum look like, where I can go in day out, day in, day out, and deliver a great show.
So do you have a vision of how this might go for you? Do you see it 3 to 5 to 10 years out? All the sound like the VC questions, and you haven't even asked for investment, but do you have a vision of where this goes, or is it day by day and next week's guests? And
I mean, part of it is to find a home, whether that home is HBO or CNBC or Cheddar or BBC, quite frankly, but a home that allows and affords the opportunity to grow audience and community. That's important. My number one goal is growth, way, way, way above monetization. If I had to basically say my 3 goals, goal number 1 is growth. Goal number 2 is art, perfecting my craft, getting better at what I do. And goal number 3 would be monetization. And the only reason goal number 2 is where it is because after almost a year, I think I've gotten much better at it.
I think you have too, if you don't mind me saying. And do you do all your own? It's all you. There's nobody else helping you.
There's nobody else at the moment. But I am. A bunch of people. I will say this: a bunch of people have come out of the woodwork offering help. Many have faded in terms of helping and haven't followed through. But I don't hold that against them. There is one person in particular that's helping me right now on what CoronaTV 2.0 might look like. Watch this space. So that partnership is
assistant producer or
maybe
something like that.
It's tough letting go of control. It's very tough. And I always have viewed myself
Nobody
as
I know would say that about me. Joseph.
Yeah. So there you go. Tom says, of course, many of us help with useless advice to Joseph. That's been the hardest part, is ignoring all of their advice and pretending.
What you should do. If I were you, I would do this. Yeah.
But any other questions before I turn the table back on you?
No, I think that's it. I just wanted to ask, and I think as much as anything for anybody who does watch, if they do watch regularly, I don't know how often you have been asked how you're doing with this. It's nearly a year in. I think it's amazing watching what you're doing. Genius, I don't know yet, but there's something close to it that I totally admire somebody in his middle age, if you don't mind me saying, just demonstrating pivotability, complete pivotability. I think is tremendous, and I'm not blowing smoke up your backside. I think it's entertaining to watch. I hope it goes very well for you. I wish you well for it.
You are very, very kind, and I will add a couple of things. The one thing that I've been looking to do is around the, I would say, positioning of how I reinvented myself during a global pandemic, and so I haven't quite figured out how that comes to market, but whether it's some kind of advice or workshop or book, but being able to not just document all of this, but actually share. And it's how I reinvented myself during a global pandemic, ... and you can too. And that's the important part here. The important part is to empower others and give them the tools and give them the incentive to do this if, in fact, it's what they want. But it's the barriers to entry right now, Robin, are so low. But with everything in life, everyone can do it. And that wasn't true before. 20 years ago, it wasn't true that you could do what I'm doing. But now everyone can do it. Will they stay the course? And will they be able to make it? Of course, that's the $1 million or $1 billion question. I hope.
Yeah, agreed. Well, I hope for you. It carries on being enjoyable for you, because you seem to do it with a smile. And so, thanks for letting me turn the tables.
I appreciate it very much. But now it's time to give it right back to you. If there's time, we'll talk about. Maybe in the after show we'll talk about about how Whisky has gone crazy. But there was one thing that stood out in the brief document that you very kindly filled out. And you said, I said, what do you want to promote? And you said, just having a moral compass and standing up for what you believe in. And I thought to myself, wow, that's amazing. You know, again, in 200 interviews, I haven't really seen anyone put that under the things I want to promote. They might have put it under things I want to talk about. I would love for you to talk about what that means. What does that mean to you, having a moral compass and standing up for what you believe in?
Oh, it's different writing it down and then being asked it live, isn't it? I think
you tell me.
So having a moral compass, I think that we all have a sense of what's right and wrong. Well, hopefully we have a sense of what's right and wrong. I think what I've found in my journey through work is 30 odd years in now, that an awful lot of people seem willing to compromise their morality for money. And they maybe get to a point where they forget their own compass, that they're now blowing in the wind. And there's some expression or some saying, I don't know, about how you're the composite of the 10 people who you spend most time with. And I think that's quite dangerous if we spend more time at work and with people for money than for love. And we can forget our compass. So having a moral compass, I think, is firstly having morality to begin with, and the compass is that sense of direction. I think that's critical. I personally would be ironically lost without one. It gives me my sense of purpose then of what to do in a clinch, what to do in a situation. And when it comes to data, and you know, Richie introduced us and suggested I'd be a guest on the show. What he and I share, I think, is a sense of there's absolutely a morality around the use of personal information, an obligation on us in the data and the marketing world to use that data with consent, respect the sovereignty of individuals, and an awful lot of that's got lost. You asked me about how easy or hard is it to find pictures of me. I'm a conscientious objector to Facebook. That might sound hypocritical for somebody who worked at a proto-social network like FortuneCity, but perhaps it was FortuneCity that gave me an inkling to how bad social media could be. You know, working on the inside in 1998, I could already see what we would have to do as a business to do the right thing by people. And I could see that the commercial imperative wasn't there to do the right thing. So the morality was compromised rather than compassed. And that's not FortuneCity specifically, that's just data. To the degree that we've just seen, you know, war of words between Facebook and Apple coming out today. But in my book, it's very simple. I'm on the side of the individual sovereign rights. The tyranny of the masses is not good. The tyranny of the large corporation bullying the small corporation, and maybe that circles nicely back in themes to your Robin Hood theme of earlier. I need a sense of purpose to keep me going, keep me motivated. I need a sense of decency that's above and beyond a cash prize. I need to be doing something better for myself and better for the society I live in than the one I found. I want to leave it in a better condition than I found it. I think there's some of the themes. And so maybe I'm going to have a stab at answering your Robin Hood piece now, which I don't think I could have done 45 minutes ago. But should the individual be allowed to go up against the corporation by organizing itself or themselves into a group and taking on the shorters? Yeah, I think so. I think they should. Should people short companies? Well, it's a very brave thing to do. So I think if they're allowed to and they do it reasonably well for the right moral reasons, then fine. It'd be interesting to see how that one plays out, Joseph.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Actually, it's getting kind of quite deep. But I think philosophically, I don't think it's moral to short. You know, by shorting a company and actually putting financial gain on their demise or their decline, which has implications on so many people's lives and livelihoods, I would question. I would say that it's questionable. There is a game, no doubt, and it is somewhat removed, but it's an interesting debate, I think, at the end of the day, because you can actually look at these, this Reddit group, and you could look at them as and accuse them the same way, because when the hedge funds lose billions of dollars, whose money's feeding the hedge funds?
That's right. It's still individuals, isn't it?
It's
a bit more direct when it's
funds, and I know enough about that space to be not dangerous. So what do I know? But I'm glad that it's getting people talking. That's what I'm glad about. I'm glad that people are talking about this, even if they didn't quite know, understand, or participate before.
Yeah, and maybe even the name Robin Hood. I mean, obviously, it's a name that's close to my heart. But maybe it's pushing people to take on the rich, robbing the rich to feed the poor. Maybe somehow it's egging people on, and it's for the little guy.
Right.
And I wonder if even it is for the little guy. I doubt it. I doubt when they came up with the idea of the business that it was genuinely anything other than to make an awful lot of money.
And Chris says, and it's not a level playing field for the smaller investor. So this was a little bit of David v. Goliath. And I appreciate you answering the question. You've watched the show, so you know that I always try and find a quote. And I must say that I was going to choose the following quote, but I didn't. And maybe I should have, because it ended up being exactly what we spoke about. Both of these quotes, the one that I chose and the one that I didn't choose, I find to be quite interesting who said them, almost more so than what they said. So this is the quote that I didn't use. I know only that what is moral is what you feel good after, and what is immoral is what you feel bad after. It sounds almost like it could have been Mr. Rogers, but it was actually
Buck Rogers. So.
No, Mr. Rogers being a very American reference, but it seems like very much, like something you would say to a child, or a child might even say. But it was actually Ernest Hemingway, believe it or not, who said that. I'll repeat it again. I know only that what is moral is what you feel good after, and what is immoral is what you feel bad after. And it's an interesting one, because I think there are some people that actually feel good after doing bad things. But that's, again, probably that's a whole nother conversation. I think they call that being a sadist. But I wonder what you thought about that quote. And then I'll give you the second one as well. I'll let you pick your quote. How about that? So this is the quote I did pick for you. The highest possible stage in moral culture is when we recognize that we ought to control our thoughts.
Gosh, that's definitely well above my station. That's deep. I mean, it's high.
And guess who said that?
Very high to get there.
That was Charles Darwin, of all people. So
he wasn't thick, was he? He was very smart.
Which quote spoke to you more?
I think in one way the earlier one spoke to me more because of its simplicity. I can get there quicker. I think the problem with the first thought is to your point, that there are some what we call psychopaths or sociopaths. There are people who seem to take pleasure out of pain and other people's pain, which is not going to be helpful, which would make the latter the better of the two. I think the latter is the more sustainable defense. I would rather, if we were debating, I would rather have to defend the second quote than the first. But the first one's probably easier to get your head around.
Yeah.
There's another one. I don't actually remember the exact words, but I'm sure there's speaking to American culture, there's a Mark Twain quote about how it is so much easier to convince people of a lie than it is that they've been lied to. And I think, going back to moral compasses, I've certainly found that I speak up in business, and it's very, very difficult if you find yourself having to speak up after the falsehood and to speak down the falsehood. I think that takes some. You have to you have to gird your loins for that one. That's not something that's easy to deliver.
So now, Robin, you have a company called the Overmore Group, and what I found really interesting is you have all these sub brands. I love the names. There's Lola, Matic, All Groove, Lead Scale, and Lola Grove. And I was just going to take a flyer that Lola happens to be your child's name.
No, Lola Grove is an anagram of my first company name that I came up with in 2001. No, my daughter's called Ruby.
So and the acronym is.
So the original company name was either Goal Lover or Go All Over. You can pronounce it one of two ways. All Groove and Lola Grove. There you go. There's the Twitter handle on the screen. So that's at Go All Over or at Go Lover. You can choose. That was my little moment of, what did you call it? But my instant spark, my spark moment. I think you talked about a SPOC, a Spock moment. But that was when I realized that there's always more than one way of looking at things. And I wanted to try and encapsulate that concept in a company name, know that I didn't have all the answers, that somebody else had a different point of view that was equally as viable as mine. And I ought to keep my thoughts in check, perhaps. I'm definitely leaning towards your second quote now, aren't I? Yeah. So, but Lola Grove is the engine room, Joseph, of the business. Lola Grove is our data processing software. Lola Grove is where we process data and we safeguard individual rights, and we try and enable the compliant use of personal data in an online advertising ecosystem where I think, unfortunately, the majority are willing to abuse the sovereign rights of the individual. So
there's your moral compass coming to the forefront, and of course, if you know the word, this is a trivia question, but it's very, very interesting. The word news. One of the I don't know this for a fact. I just know it's true. But the derivative of the word news.
I don't. I'm from Newcastle.
The 4 letters in the word news are north, east, west, and south.
That bit I knew.
Yeah, and so I don't know whether it actually derives from a word or a Latin word, or in fact it does indicate the compass. And the moral compass, therefore, is one that certainly directs you, the North Star, true north, but also helps you triangulate through diversity and different perspectives. And I think that comes to the forefront in the fact that the name of your company is in fact, and these products are in fact anagrams of previous companies, thereby indicating multiple perspectives and the debate thereof. And I think that's kind of what we did today, even talking about the 800-pound gorillas and the Davids. I think we just came.
We're a David. I appreciate that. From the background, just from the phrase that you've made me stare at for an hour behind your head, and now for something completely different. I hope it has been. It's been fun chatting with you. I've actually got quite a few interesting ideas to take away from the conversation as well. And in terms of what do we stand for? What's the corporate identity that we really should stamp for my own business moving forward? So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, funnily enough, that I used to do before the pandemic is actually working with companies and helping them define those narratives and and align them with archetypes and come up with a manifesto. And it's funny, it's like a very
enjoyable. That is to what you said about earlier. That's something that you can box off and do as a project.
Absolutely, but more importantly for you, I think your spark here is the power of that point of view, and you have it. That's why probably Richie introduced you to me. Now it's important to be able to bring that to life and articulate it, and build.
So we just had our first briefing conversation in public.
Remember, I don't consult anymore, so you'll have to go elsewhere. But it actually
show and pick your brains.
It was a very that's what we do on the after show. But it was very like a real epiphany for me just now, Robin, because I actually saw how powerful it is. Normally, it would be this is what you need to do as a consultant talking to a client or brand. But hearing it from your perspective, which is this is how I feel. This is how we feel. This is what we believe in. This is what matters to us. This is our moral code. These are our ethics. This is the compass that guides us and steers us forward, oftentimes, in uncomfortable and uncertain waters. And I think it was seeing it in you, which is maybe we need to dial that up and bring that to the forefront and make sure that our customers and prospects and employees and family members understand the mission and the vision. So for me, it was, it was an ironic
seeing it in you and seeing it in you too. If you'll forgive me for saying, because you are, as we've explored, you're reinventing yourself. You're leaving that part of your career behind you, but you've got direction, right? And if you are in lockdown and you are feeling a bit down, as long as you're making a step forward every day, every week, every month towards a goal, you've got some chance of being content, right? Some chance of being happy. So
always be moving, right? Whether it's the hummingbird or the Hemingway bird or the hummingbird, whether it's a shark. I've always loved those analogies that when these animals or when these creatures stop moving, they die, they're dead, they fall out the sky, they're finished. So keep on moving, but also it helps when you're moving in the right direction.
Forwards is better, right? Isn't it?
Forward is better, but sometimes the pivot will take us away from that forward motion and maybe discover a shorter path or a quicker path or a better path. So
that's sure.
Loved the last 10 minutes of this conversation. We got a little philosophical, but now let's get practical. The Corona question this week, and you are the lead-off hitter, is if you could go back 1 year to February 1st, 2020, and you knew everything that you know now, what would you do differently?
A year ago. Okay, what would I do differently? I would have given up the office sooner. I would have embraced the digital transformation sooner, trusted my colleagues and co-workers and the team sooner, that good people work wherever they are. And linked to that thought is that, I've learned that work is an activity, not a destination. The firm and the colleagues I have put in an incredible shift in 2020. So I knowing all of that, I think I would have given up the office. I would have certainly spent a bit more time paying attention to Microsoft Teams when my friend Andy and colleague Andy pointed it out to me in 2017. Certainly on the 1st of February 2020, I'd have taken a close look at the product. What would I have done differently? I think that I would have taken probably, I don't know if you haven't had the furlough scheme in America that we've had here, where the government subsidized roles. I think I might have taken a more pragmatic approach to that. I think furlough did what it was intended to do, and it saved jobs. But I don't know in the big scheme of things if those jobs, the jobs that it saved, I don't know if all of them should have been saved. I don't know if that's a bit philosophical, but I might have dealt with that a little bit differently. But I would, and the other thing I would say, the final thing I think I would say is I think I would have reviewed my company's stock option agreements a bit earlier, and looked to properly thank and chip in and reward the good people who've stepped up over the last 12 months.
The beautiful thing is that, of looking back, is that you can also look forward and say, in a year's time, what might that person have said about today? And certainly, if I take anything away from your answer, it would be the power of trusting your gut, the power of decisiveness, and the power of forward movement and momentum. I'm going to let Chris have the last word. Chris Ashton Green, he said, some of the best football teams pass backwards, sideways in order to attack forward at pace, except for Spurs. They just seem to be passing sideways and backwards and not moving forward. But that's, again, another story for another day. This has been my Monday conversation with Robin Keller. Robin, we are going to head over to the Zoom after show. I appreciate you coming in. Tell Nikki I said hi, and we leave you in the immortal words of Mr. Chuck Norris.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
There you go. I'll be back tomorrow. Take care, everyone.
See you there.
Thank you for watching Corona TV with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. Corona TV is the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing. The after show on Zoom starts right now at bit.ly/Corona TV After Show. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show at coronatv.show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, text Corona TV to 66866 or visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.